goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Fry Show.
Welcome back to the Annie Fry Show. We got a guest in studio right now, your tallest candidate for the Senate seat in Missouri. That's the way he introduced himself. Peter Pfifer joins us right now. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me on, Annie. It's very nice to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you in. So there's a lot of hubbub right now about with the Supreme Court announcement that Justice Kennedy will be retiring as of July. And the Senate right now has a 51 majority, and that's not very big.
It's not very big. What an exciting news day. I'm glad to be here on such a momentous day.
It certainly is a big news.
And what the dissent say? Something about weaponizing the First Amendment? That's ridiculous. The left is completely imploding.
Yeah. So what is that seat? What do you think that the Claire McCaskill Senate seat means to Missouri? After we get out of the primary, if you happen to be the candidate that gets to face off Claire McCaskill, how do you better represent the Missouri voter than she does?
Well, my common experiences, I think, are more common with most Missourians than any other candidate. That's why I put my name on the ballot. I was sitting at home, minding my own business, looking at all the other candidates that had filed, and I said not one of them could represent me. And not one of them could represent most Missourians. I think my experiences are more common to Missouri than any other candidate on the ballot. And then what that seat means is that it's an opportunity to have Missourians represented. We know Claire McCaskill. We're all on the same page. Claire McCaskill is not doing a job of representing Missouri.
What are those experiences that make you feel as though you relate very well to the people who elect to send you there to represent them? Because ultimately, you were there on behalf of them.
Well, thank you for that question. I'm the only candidate on the ballot that's been in the private sector for 30 years. 20 of those 30 years, I've been a professional negotiator. I've born, raised, and educated right here in St. Louis. We all know that St. Louis is the economic generator of the state of Missouri. None of the other candidates understand what the Mississippi River is to us. I do. I'm also the only candidate that's been previously elected to serve as a legislator.
Yeah. So what does the Missouri voter want? When you think about the people of Missouri, whether they're in St. Louis or Jefferson City or Fenton or St. Charles or wherever they might be.
Or Hamilton or Forsyth.
There you go.
Or Taney County. I've been all over the state.
How do you represent all those folks?
Well, I think it's really simple. You know, you have to start off with remembering that you are a representative of the people. Now, I've made my living for the past 20 years representing individuals. It's not a big jump to take that and represent more people. I think that my job, again, as a senator would be very simple. Missouri, we're the show me state. It's a pretty simple motto. We're not complicated people. There are complicated candidates in this race. I'm not one of the complicated candidates. I think it is just keep it simple and do your best to represent the state of Missouri.
One of the reasons why the president had suggested maybe they'd put off the immigration vote is because he thought maybe it'd be better handled after the election takes place. The immigration is one of the hot topics in our country right now. It is definitely something that is very important to this president. Where do you stand on immigration, and how would you represent the people of Missouri with your vote?
Well, I think I'm like most Missourians, again, that we're all for immigration. We all realize that our families weren't born here, that we populate this country because of immigration. But we also want our borders to be our borders. We don't favor people breaking the laws and demanding rights that we have, that our families have earned, that make us citizens of the United States. Just because you come from somewhere else doesn't give you the right to our Constitution. So as far as immigration is concerned, I'm for legal immigration. I'm for shutting down the border as much as possible.
All right. Sounds good. What about other issues that Claire McCaskill has not been in favor of when it comes to the agenda of this president? President Trump won hugely in the state of Missouri. What do you think about this president? How's he doing?
Yeah, you'd think if the voters spoke by 20% margin that Claire McCaskill might listen. But, you know, you've seen her out there on the I'm Not Listening tour and flying around on an airplane, Air Claire. You know, I'm ready to clip the wings of Air Claire. There's no doubt in my mind how easy the job is to represent the state of Missouri. Again, these folks that are in D.C. And some folks that are even here in Jeff City, in particular one of the candidates that's running, are complicated by the money that's in the process. I'm shoestrings and I'm bootstraps. I'm making this campaign work, with friends and family and folks that have the same ideas that I have.
How do you plan on beating Claire McCaskill? She is a well-conditioned politician. She is well-funded. She knows how to win elections. She's done it multiple times. How do you take her down?
Well, it's you brought up money. So how much do votes cost? It's a great question. Votes don't cost anything. Votes are free. It doesn't matter if she has $13 million or not. We know her husband's taken $41 million in low-income housing tax credits. That was in her first 5 years as senator. She is not only complicated, she's complicit, and she's done a very bad job representing the state of Missouri. And she doesn't support the president that we voted for by over 20% margin here in the state of Missouri.
Do you think that when it comes to being a Republican or a Democrat right now, especially in this past week, but certainly not limited to this past week, the discourse in our country right now, politically speaking, is very heated. It's very ugly. It's very divided. I don't know if that really serves our purposes as a nation very well. And so the political climate, I think it makes a lot of people just turn their heads because they don't want to be a part of it. You obviously want to be a part of it. You want to represent other people. How do you represent yourself in this climate? How do you fight a fight to win an election without having to participate in the Maxine Waters kind of rhetoric, fight back against the Maxine Waters kind of rhetoric? How do we do that today?
Well, I think, it's a very interesting time. Obviously, our country had been lurching left for a while. 8 years of Obama and the House and the Senate being lined up with that agenda initially. But it's coming back to the right. And it's not very pretty to watch the sausage getting made. Mm-hmm. And not a lot of people have the stomach for it. But you know what? At the end of the day, we do end up having a palatable product. And this is the process we're engaged in right now. The sausage is being made. We decided that we didn't want what they were serving us. We want a different brand. And the Republican Party and the United States of America and the state of Missouri are leaning right and running right in some cases. And to be involved in that process is exciting. And again, for me, I just keep it simple. I'm born here, I'm raised here, I'm educated here. I know who I am. Nobody's in my pocket. I'm not in anybody else's pocket. So again, to keep it simple and to know that the Constitution is for all of us, not just some of us.
I'm looking at a tweet here from The Hill. And they tweeted out, CNN legal analyst predicts abortion will be illegal in 20 states soon after Kennedy retires. Now, in order for, I would assume, in order for abortion to become illegal, we would have to take some legal action on that. Do you support pro-life measures? If you were in the Senate, would you be willing to fight for the right of the unborn to just live?
Absolutely. As a father of two daughters, I appreciate life. I think we all appreciate life. I'm 100% pro-life. There's no doubt about that. The states' rights are very interesting in this era, and they should always be interesting. But as far as abortion is concerned, the states have the ability to determine that, and this is what will help open that up if we do get Roe v. Wade overturned. So,
what has the president done that he hasn't been able to achieve, that you think that you flipping this seat from Claire McCaskill's blue seat to red seat, if you were able to take that and make it a red seat, how would you be able to move the Trump agenda forward? What specific agenda items do you support that this president hasn't been able to get through because of Claire McCaskill?
Well, that's a great question. And 35 years of the public trough, I mean, really, Claire McCaskill has got to go. All of us Republicans have to remain excited and excitable about retiring Claire McCaskill. Now, a lot of candidates that are out there, it's very hard to get excited about. Now, my candidacy is something you can get excited about. I'm a guy that is excitable. But as far as our agenda and carrying forward our agenda, one idea that I have that I think that none of the other candidates are talking about because they don't understand it is the Mississippi River. There are $400 billion a year being transacted along that Mississippi River from St. Paul, Minnesota down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There's a lot of excitement. We're now seeing the agricultural coast being promoted here as St. Louis. Well, you don't hear the other candidates talking about that. 90% of our soybean exports come down the Mississippi River. 80% of our corn exports come down the Mississippi River. What I would like to do as a 20-year professional negotiator, get together with the other congressional delegates from the Midwest that have boundaries along the Mississippi River River. That's Louisiana, it's Mississippi, it's Arkansas, it's Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Iowa, Illinois. I said that twice, sorry. Wisconsin and Minnesota. And say, hey, let's spend some money on the Mississippi River. It's been 100 years since any real money's been spent on the Mississippi River. And we can include the Ohio, the Illinois, and the Missouri River as well. But while we're at it, because I'm not a big fan of one-off federal projects like the runway out at Lambert that's serving us all so well, what I would like to do, in addition to the Mississippi River improvements, is improve the roads, the highways, and bridges that circumvent, that crisscross over the Mississippi, the Missouri, and the Ohio, and the Illinois rivers. And we can do this through the appropriate appropriations process, through regular order in Congress.
Who's your favorite senator right now? Who do you see yourself going in and saying, I want to learn I want to learn this guy or this gal's process. I think they're doing it right.
That's a great question. You know, I'm not a big fan of any politician for that instance, but I would say, I would be a strong Republican proponent and a proponent of Missouri. As you can see on my lapel pin, I do have the state of Missouri on here because I want to remember. I'm never going to forget. But when I do go to D.C., I'll be grounded in the state of Missouri. So as far as a senator from Missouri, I would pick Kit Bond as somebody that I would like to emulate.
Okay. What about your least favorite senator? And you can't say Claire McCaskill.
Well, my least favorite senator. Can I say Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, you can. What about currently serving? Is there anybody in the Senate right now that you think is?
Well, Chuck Schumer's just appalling. I mean, every time he opens his mouth, I get a little choked up. I want to vomit every time I hear Chuck Schumer speak.
Who's serving in the Senate right now that you would want to work with and get in there and move this agenda forward alongside?
Well, I think folks like Rand Paul that are independent thinkers, and obviously independent thinkers, I like the way that they move the ball from one side to the other side of the table. To interject ideas into the process is really what it's all about. So I like that from that standpoint.
And do you anticipate being able to have some sort of debate or anything? I know whenever I have a Senate candidate on, everybody wants to know if there's going to be a debate. Are you willing to participate in some kind of a debate?
I am. As a matter of fact, I've been involved in 4 or 5 forums so far out at Fenton in Hallsville, Missouri. I was just down in Springfield. I got to tell you, Missouri is a great big state. It is. It's 4 hours one way and 4 hours back. It's tough to do that, but it's a big state, and I've been in 4 or 5 already. And I really want to thank all the candidates for putting their name on the ballot, because it is no small thing to hold yourself out for public ridicule, and I want to thank them for doing that. And I also take the opportunity at the same time to, elaborate on some of the differences. And I've told you some of those already. Yeah,
you talk about opening yourself up to public ridicule. What's it like to run for Senate? Forget about obviously wanting to win, but it's certainly not an easy thing to do from a time management situation. But there's a lot of other things that come into play for a candidate. What's it like?
Well, I would have loved to have run 6 years ago myself. However, my daughters were young at that time. So now my daughters are both out of the house, and it's a lot easier to spend the time that I would have been doing other things like sleeping in parking lots, waiting for swim practice to be over at 7 or 5 a.m. So I'm not doing that anymore, and I have a little more time to focus on extracurricular activities like running for Senate. But I am currently working on 3 commercial real estate deals. That's what I do for a living. That's what I've been doing for 20 years here in St. Louis. And I've touched, hundreds of business here in our area.
Sounds great. Last question I have to ask you, what's your favorite kind of M&Ms? It's kind of a thing on our show. And there's a major front runner, which I wholeheartedly disagree with, but of all the M&Ms, what's your favorite? Well,
it's Republican red M&Ms, of course.
Red M&Ms,
it's
but
gotta be the red.
Plain or peanut butter.
Well, as a guy that looks to have a little extra protein, I do like that red peanut.
Oh gosh,
M&M. Those are very good.
Frank likes plain. I like peanut butter. Tony is the clear winner with the peanut M&Ms, but we ask everybody that. Yeah,
I've got an event coming up.
Yeah,
I'd like
tell
to
us
tell
about
everybody
it. How can people support you as well?
Well, on 7/11, that's July 11th. It's 7 p.m. at the Cool Dell Swim Club.
Okay.
All right. Everybody should know where that is. If you don't, you can Google it. but 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Cooldell Swim Club. It's a great club. It's great family. It's a fantastic environment. I'll have an opportunity there to address folks one-on-one and as a crowd as well. I'll be glad to feed you hot dogs, potato chips, even get you a cola. But please come out and support me. And there'll be a few other fun things going on that night. I'd like to see you there.
That sounds great.
And my website is peterpfeiffer.com. It's very simple. My folks did have a bakery on Clayton Road. If you were familiar with it, was Pfeiffer's Party Pastries.
Okay.
I'm a real Missouri SOB. That's son of a baker.
Son of a baker. I like that. That's great. Yes. The website is peterpfeiffer.com. Pfeiffer is P-F-E-I-F-E-R. And you can also find him on Facebook at facebook.com/Peter Pfeiffer for Senate, on Twitter at Peter Pfeiffer 18. Peter, thanks for coming in here. And we look forward to watching the primary lead up. That primary is on August 7th here in the state of Missouri, an extremely important seat for Missouri and for the whole country. Yeah.
That's one day after my 50th birthday.
Oh.
I'll be glad to take your vote as a late birthday
gift. A little
gift.
birthday gift
on
for
August
one
7th.
Peter Pfeiffer. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming
Thanks,
in here
Annie.
and visiting with us. We appreciate it.
Tony, you're great.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the announcement that we heard here that Justice Kennedy is going to retire. Come the end of July, it will be effective. So a lot of news coming out of the Supreme Court today.